if you feel like you're the only one that can close, or you feel like you're the only one that can recruit, or you feel like you're the only one that can anything in your business, you're never going to scale.
Hello everyone, Sergio Tiffer here, and welcome to a very special episode of Cracking the Code. Today we're sitting down with someone who has helped thousands of agents and team leaders build predictable, scalable, and highly profitable real estate businesses. Michael Hellickson is the founder and CEO of Club Wealth, one of the most respected real estate coaching organizations in the United States. Known for his non-excuses approach, recruiting, leadership, accountability, and systems, Michael has played a direct role in helping teams scale from small operations to multi-market powerhouses. Let's jump right into it. Michael, for the ones that don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself real quick and who you are, where you came from, what are you doing right now?
So currently, I own a company called Club Wealth. We're the number one coaching and consulting company in the team and brokerage space. My background is that I was a real estate agent from 1991 until about 2011 when I retired. At least I thought I was going to retire. And my claim to fame was that I was the number one agent on planet Earth for almost 6 years. I was closing about 120 to 180 transactions a month and carrying 750 listings in active and pending status at a time when number two and number three combined were doing about half that. And I've also been on actually more listing appointments than anybody on the planet that I'm aware of. I've been on over 10,000 listing appointments with mom and pop sitting across from them. And if it truly takes 10,000 hours to be an expert at something, I guess that means I'm probably the only expert at actually going on listing appointments.
So on your website, you have that you are the number one coaching team for coaching agents. For teams. Do you guys also coach solo agents, high producers? You do. Now, what is it that you guys offer differently that you believe that you're the number one coaching agency for high producing teams?
Well, first and foremost, our focus isn't how do we make sure Club Wealth is making as much money as possible. Our focus is how do we make sure our clients are making as much as possible in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache to them. Right. And so the company was designed very, very differently. So one of the things that's very unique about us is that every one of our clients has a coach that sells more real estate than they do. It cracks me up that there are still people out there paying, in some cases, lots of money. I mean, I know people are paying thousands of dollars for a 20-minute phone call with somebody that's never sold real estate at a high level. Are you freaking kidding me? It makes no sense to me why you would ever follow someone that's not been where you want to go. And so things are very, very different with us. We guarantee our service, which nobody else does. Literally, if you don't make at least an extra $100,000 in your first year coaching with us, then we just give you your money back, assuming you've done what we've suggested you do. Right. We do unlimited calls each month with your coach. You get to select your coach. You can change coaches at any time. It's a very different ecosystem. Essentially what we've got is we got a lot of just really good, humble people. I'm talking about our coaches here that, just a lot of really good, humble people that happen to be really, really successful. Culture is huge for us. People enter when they achieve great success. It's the nature of most people to enter what we call the pride cycle. And when people get into that pride cycle, they either find their way out or we show them the way out. And we're not shy about letting go of coaches from time to time because, well, their egos have gotten too big for us. And
too big for you.
Yeah. And so we're okay with that because the culture, in fact, you probably know Matt Wagner. I'm guessing you probably know Matt over at Radio and TV Experts. Yep. Great guy, really good guy, great company. And Matt, we had a conversation one day. He was telling me, he said, Michael, I'm having a culture problem. I got all these really high producers and there's just egos like crazy. And it's creating a culture problem. And I'd love to get some more Club Wealth people into our organization because we love the culture of Club Wealth. And I'm really proud of that. And I'll tell you, I'm more proud of that than I am about how much money Club Wealth makes or how many clients Club Wealth has or whatever. I'm much more excited about when I have somebody come to me and say, I feel like I got my husband back because of Club Wealth. I feel like my husband is present for our family and we have both the money and the time freedom now. And we're in a place where he or he or she the parent that's in coaching and that's in the real estate industry is available to spend time with our family, right? And you heard me say before, no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. That's our core value at Club Wealth. And I think that it doesn't matter how much successful somebody is. If we screw up their family in the process, it ain't worth it. So,
since you build a team successfully and you're coaching teams, what are the 3 things that you recommend for every team to be scalable and efficient? Or maybe 3 to 5 things. That it was a 2-part question, because I first wanted to understand, how building a team was for you. But now that you're coaching, what are the 3 or 5 more essential things that you're recommending every team to do?
Well, first thing team leaders got to do is they got to lead by example. And this is something I think is lost on a lot of team leaders. They think, well, I don't have to do this, that, or the other. Listen, if you're not leading by example, nobody's going to respect you. And you have to be the biggest baller in your team for a period of time to gain the respect,
right,
and to build the team in a way that's sustainable long term. So next, I would say you've got to do a daily huddle with your team every single day, Monday through Friday. Got to have a daily huddle first thing in the morning. And then you've got to get as many people as possible, you in particular, but as many of your team members as possible, following the perfect daily schedule. And that means after the huddle, we immediately jump on the phones. We're picking up the phone. We're calling. Now, if your team members, there's a lot of different models around this. The traditional model is we're going to get our agents to come in and make calls, and then we're going to go on appointments, et cetera. The new model is we're going to have ISAs making calls, and they're going to set appointments for the agents, and the agents are just going to do what they're best at, which is close people at the appointments. And most of the larger, more successful teams are highly focused on the latter. But that being said, to make it scalable, everybody thinks they're scaling, but the vast majority of people out there are growing, and there's a massive difference between growth and scale. Growth is more, you're involved. Like if you're involved in any part of that process of growth, you're growing, you're not scaling. The only way you can truly scale is if you're completely absent in the entire process of growth. And the vast majority of team leaders out there have not accomplished that.
So do you believe that they haven't accomplished it because they don't have the fundamentals, or because they're not coaching? Which I guess is more of the same. Do you think that every team has to have a coach?
I wouldn't say that every team has to have a coach. I would say that the most successful teams all have a coach.
Okay.
I don't think that having a coach is a prerequisite for success, but it certainly is something that is a clear sign of likely, or I should say, greater propensity towards success. That being said, no, I don't think that's okay. We know that National Association of Realtor statistics prove that that agents that have a coach outproduce agents that don't by 8 to 11x, right? So we get that. We all know coaching works. That's not the point. That being said, to get to that kind of scale, I think that if there's one thing that separates teams from getting to that kind of scale and teams that don't, it's not just one thing. It's systems, it's processes, it's people, and it's ego. And the one that I think is lost on most is the ego piece. If you can back ego out of it and understand that there are other people that can do this as well as you can, your job is in fact, there's a lot of them that can do it better. And your job is to go find those people and hire those people that can do it better than you, and put them in a position to where they can succeed, and then get the heck out, give them all the things they need to succeed, and then get out of their way and let them do their thing. You have a chance at scaling. If you feel like you're the only one that can close, or you feel like you're the only one that can recruit, or you feel like you're the only one that can anything in your business, you're never going to scale.
Right. Does that make sense? Of course. Yeah, it does make sense. And backing up a little bit to what you said earlier, you were mentioning ISAs, and ISAs for us has been, as a virtual assistant company, has been very painful because I don't want to exaggerate, but 80% of the people has come to us trying to use ISAs. I'm like, you guys are not ready for ISAs. Like, why? Is because what's the size of your database? Well, I have 5,000 people in my database. That's nothing. Like, an ISA is going to go through that thing like in a week, right? Then number 2, they don't have enough incoming leads. Number 3, they don't have any penalty system for agents in case they don't do what they need to do. So yeah, the ISA can come and set the appointment. What's going to happen next? The agent call immediately, or is going to call when he remembers or she remembers in the week? Do you have a gatekeeper? What do you mean by that? Like, okay, what's going to happen if the agent doesn't call? Are you going to reroute the lead to someone else? Does the ISA is going to have the power to just say, okay, you didn't call, you didn't follow up, I'm going to just assign this lead to someone else? So there's so many moving parts into using ISAs. And I ended up rejecting the majority of the people that come to me trying to get ISAs. Why? Because the ISAs get frustrated. They get frustrated because they're not doing anything. And then ultimately they blame it on us. It's like, oh, your ISAs are not doing what they need to. It's like, no, they are. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers, the number of calls. How come an ISA is setting 2 or 3 appointments a day for you guys? And you guys haven't converted a single bloody transaction in 6 months. Like, that doesn't make sense, but, it was funny that you were mentioning ISA. So I guess you guys are heavy into coaching your teams with using ISAs, which is funny.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
probably the first time I've heard that in a long time.
Oh yeah, no. In fact, internally we hire 5 to 10 ISAs a week, and I'll tell you, it's the highest turnover position in the company. You know this. It's the highest turnover position in the company. But once you get the right ones, they're worth their weight in gold. And to your point, most teams lack necessary systems to hold their ISAs accountable. Heck, they can't even hold themselves accountable, let alone their ISAs half the time. And when you look at that system, it's not just the ISA that needs to be held accountable. It's the ISA, it's the agent going on the appointment.
Right.
I'll give you an example. So we were talking earlier about my son, Austin, right? He owns a company called Hellickson, which is similar to like a Place or Reside or, Space or some of those platform companies. And they have a fully automated AI-driven system for holding both the ISAs and the agents accountable for every single one of the leads that come in, for every single one of the listing appointments that are set. For example, with their system, ISA sets an appointment. Well, how do we know that somebody went on that appointment? How do we know that that the client showed up or didn't show up? How do we know that the agent showed up or didn't show up? What was the result of that appointment? Right. And so in real time, that system that Hellickson has literally text message, literally right after the time of the appointment, within an hour of the time of the appointment, and say, hey, did the client show up? Agent responds back to the text, yeah, they showed up. I need to follow up with them next Tuesday. Great. Would you like me to set up a follow-up call and follow-up boss for you for next Tuesday with such and such a client? Yeah, please do that. And literally, it's all AI driven and it does it automatically. You know how many teams have a system like that? Virtually none. And I'll tell you, the only other place that even remotely scratches the surface on having technology that's helping with this at the level that's necessary is Zillow. Zillow's doing a great job of it in terms of, they have AI listening to the calls. They're hearing who's doing the best job on the calls, who's getting the best conversion rates. They're slicing and dicing those analytics like crazy. But nobody else in the industry has really dialed it in that deeply. I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people in the industry have dialed it in as deeply as they need to. And I'll tell you, it's getting more and more competitive every day. And we're in the days of the 5-person team are over. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing 500. And I'll tell you, you're going to have, by the end of next year in America, you're going to have, if I had to put a guess on it, you're going to have somewhere between 5 and 10 teams that are over 1,000 agents each. And then you're all nationwide. And we already saw last year, we had 25 teams that broke the 1,000 transaction mark. In 2021, there were 38 teams that broke the 1,000 transaction mark. And I think that we're going to see a time here in the next 5 years where there's going to be 100 teams doing 1,000 transactions a year, and they're going to control 75% of the industry. That's where the industry's headed. And you're either going to be part of one of those teams or you're going to struggle.
Yeah, you're out. So, profitability versus production is something I wanted to talk with you real quick.
This is one of my favorite topics. I love the profitability topic because everybody's like, oh, look at all the transactions I did. It's like, well, show me your bank account, bro. Let's see your P&L. Pull it out.
Correct. So that's something I wanted to discuss with you, because a lot of agents or teams in general are very focused on production rather than profitability, right? Because, for example, me, I know a lot of companies that have thousands of virtual assistants, but their margins are, razor thin. But what if you have just 200 VAs in your company and your margins are great so that you can invest in technology? Like in our case, for example, we develop everything we use internally with AI. So like the noise canceling software, we develop it. The internal chatting system, we develop it. The internal system that tracks our hours, their activity, all that's been developed because we have decent margins. We are able to invest in technology and make it more efficient. So I think, more of the same happens in teams. We use all that technology in my own team because I can own a team. So we do the same. We have what you mentioned about the AI thing, tracking everything they do and follow our boss and sending text. We have something very similar. I don't know to what extent similar to what your son has, but very, 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 very complete. So, the team that we have is the number one team in the Hampton Roads. And it's just a 29 agents team. So profitability, margins versus volume. Give me your take on that.
So the short answer on profitability, when I get people, I get them all the time. They come to me, they're at 8 to 16% profitability on gross. And that's pretty bad. That's really
That's bad. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the worst I saw was 4%. It was a Zillow Flex team. And they were literally operating at 4% profitability. And they're one of the bigger Zillow Flex teams. And so where you ought to be is you ought to be at about 28 to 32% profitability is kind of an ideal. That's a point at which you're still growing, you're still having success, and yet you're very profitable. And so if you can operate within kind of those numbers, about 28 to 32%, you're pretty solid. To get there, though, you have to be efficient and you have to care more about profitability than you care about gross numbers. It's not about impressing the other people out there. It's not about impressing other agents. It's not about impressing your broker or whoever. Or being on the lower list for, look at me, I'm in the top 1,000. Who freaking cares, man? I know people that are doing, that will never break the top 1,000 agents in the country that are more profitable than 90% of the people in the top 1,000. Right. And so it's at the end of the day, your wife and your banker don't care how many transactions you do. They care how much money you made and how much time it took you to make it. So I think the best, really, if you think about what is the best KPI out there, like what is really the best indicator that I'm doing well? And I think it's NDPH, which is net dollars per hour, right? Right. If you look at net dollars per hour, that really tells the whole story. There's people out there that make $100 an hour. There's people out there that make $1,000 an hour. There's people that make $10,000 an hour. Which would you rather be?
And it's funny that you say that, because one of the things I try to coach my clients sometimes, because I've been in business for a long time. One of the things I tell them when they're trying to hire a virtual assistant, and say, okay, so from the 20 or 30 activities that you do in any given week, what are the most profitable activities that you have? And they say, okay, this, and that. So, okay, so everything else has to be outsourced. You're going to focus on the 3 or 4 things that are going to drive home $400 an hour, $500 an hour. Everything else is going to get outsourced. Even if it's $100, yes, because if it's $100 an hour and someone else can do it for $13 an hour, then you're making money, right? So everything else has to be outsourced, has to be done. And you have to create systems around that so people can do it effectively. And like you mentioned earlier, teach them how to do it, put systems in place, and then get the heck out of their way and ensure that, you focus on the things that are going to drive home all the money.
There's really only 3 things that drive money. That's it. There's only 3. Everything else is noise, and everybody gets distracted off of these 3 things, and nobody wants to focus on them, but here they are. It's lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. That's it. And by the way, we've got that on the consumer side, and we have those same 3 things on the recruiting side, right? But it's all lead gen, lead follow-up, lead conversion. And here's what happens. In the beginning, the agent is doing all 3. Over time, they get to a point in their career, if they're wise and they're careful with their money and they build their organization, then they get to a point where they can pay other people to do the lead generation, and all they do is lead follow-up and lead conversion. And then they get to a point where they can pay other people to do the lead generation and the lead follow-up, and all they do is the lead conversion. And then they get to a point where they can pay other people to do all 3. And now they do those 3 things on the recruiting side, and same thing happens. First, they're doing all 3 on the recruiting side. Then they get to a point where they can pay somebody else to do the generation and the follow-up. And eventually they'll even get to the point where they can pay someone to do all 3 of them on the recruiting side. And when you get to that point, now you're scaling.
Yeah, now you're golden. I agree. That's, I wanted to also ask you, do you see anything happening in the 2026 market? I know the rates might be coming down and people don't freaking know if that's going to happen or not. Jerome Powell now with the new Fed shirt, we don't really know. But what kind of conversations are you having with your clients about the rest of 2026 and how that may look?
So you're saying the market as a whole, or just like what's changing?
Just the market as a whole. I mean, I guess you have teams in different markets, And every market is, real estate is very localized. I mean, it's sometimes even by city. For example, in the Hampton Roads, you have Virginia Beach, which is super hot. It doesn't matter what happens. And then you have, Suffolk. That is a good area, but if the market takes a little hit, then Suffolk is weak. So I'm sure it's the same for you with your clients, but I guess as a whole, what kind of conversations are you having with them?
Well, for starters, right now, let's just talk first quarter 2026, right? There are some markets that are down, and look at a lot of the stuff back east right now with the snowstorms have been down. I say January and February numbers. January numbers we have back now, and they're clearly down in a lot of those areas. But we've also got other areas across the country that are up. In fact, there are some areas that are up as high as 12% year over year. So to your point, yes, from that standpoint, their real estate really is local. That being said, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because all that matters is what effort do we put into this? If we put the right effort in with the right systems, the right people, right processes, then guess what? We're going to have success regardless of what the market is doing. I think the bigger thing to watch, I think there's a couple of industry specific things that are changing right now. You look at the settlement and how that's changed the industry. You look at the lawsuits, like Zillow's lawsuits that they got going on. You look at the Compass lawsuits they got going on. Those are having a big impact, and they're going to have a major impact. If, as an example, if Compass wins the lawsuit against the Northwest Multiple Listings Association, which I think they likely will, and if they do, they will retain the right to withhold their listings for 90 days as private listings. If that happens, I think that you're going to see a major roll up in the industry. And by that, I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of small and mid-sized companies moving up into larger companies. Think about this. Look at the marketplace and ask yourself, okay, if I'm in a marketplace and all the Anywhere brands, right, the Compass brands, if they take their listings, they don't put them on the market for 90 days, and I'm not with one of their companies, then guess what? I don't see that listing for 90 days, whereas my competitors that are with them do. Now, not everybody's going to go to those brands, but I think what you're going to end up with very possibly is you're going to end up with 3 to 5 major brands nationwide that are going to control such a massive part of the inventory that if you're not with one of those brands, it's going to be tough to sell real estate. It could be very interesting to see what happens there. Now, do I want that to happen? Not necessarily, but I think that that's one potential outcome that we could see. Bigger though, is I think what's happening now is you're seeing this roll up into platforms. I think you're seeing a lot of people that are burned out on the industry as a whole, but in particular on the whole, I've got to do lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. And now they're looking for more done for you platforms, like HomeExa, like Place, like some of these other companies. And they're willing to pay for it. Yeah, because they don't want to make the calls. They don't want to do the hard work. And so they just want to show up, close, and hand it off to somebody else. I think that is going to be a huge shift. I think another big shift that you're going to see in the industry is you're going to see agents making a lot higher percentage of the commission. And here's why. Because you're going to see companies like these ones I've talked about that are going to realize that, gosh, you know what? What's the most expensive thing in real estate? What do you think? What is the most expensive thing in real estate?
What is the most expensive thing in real estate? If you're an agent, is that what you mean?
Sure. Agent, team, either one.
Lead generation.
It's the cost of client acquisition, right? Absolutely. And so think about this, though. Think about the immense lifetime value of that client. It's massive, right? And so what companies are starting to realize, you're seeing this with Zillow, and Zillow is doing it wrong. And it's one of the lawsuits they're in, right? They're in a steering lawsuit right now. But you've got your Zillows, and you've got your Redfins, and you've got your big national teams. You got your big national platforms. And of course, the big brokerages. What they're starting to realize is that, look, if we have the agents and the agents bring in that client, even if we provide them with a lead, but the agent solidifies them as a client. Once we've got them as a client, guess what? Now we can sell them everything else. We can sell them mortgage, title, escrow, home warranty, home repair, home inspection, pest control. We can sell them all these other things, and we can make as much or more money on those things as we can on the real estate transactions. So there's value in paying a higher percentage to the agent to get them to help us get that client. Does that make sense?
Or you just described my business model. No, seriously.
That's literally what's happening nationwide right now. Like literally.
No, because we have the team. We have a title company. We have a property management company. We have a flipping company. We have a virtual assistant company, insurance, mortgage. So all the actually, I mean, we also have a brokerage, and the brokerage doesn't really make that much money. But all the businesses around are really what drives the dollars home. But it's funny that you should describe exactly what we do.
That is literally the big change that's happening in the industry that nobody's paying attention to. And I'm telling you that in a decade from now, if in fact, probably 5 years from now, but I'll say somewhere between 5 and 10 years from now, if you're not in that model, you're getting left behind. And so everything's going that way. And that's why the line level agent, the boots on the ground agent, their career is changing and they don't even know it. Now I'll tell you something else. You were talking about the brokerage side, and that there's not really any money in the brokerage. And
well, there is, but the margins, of course, are much lower than on the team. So
there's no money in brokerage. I've coached some of the biggest brokerages in the country, and I can tell you that that's not, unless you're literally in the top 10. I do a mastermind for the top 10 in the country, and unless you're in the top 10, you're not making a lot of money as a broker. And so you think about this, you look at these teams, I'll say the platforms and the teams out there, the biggest challenge a team has in recruiting?
In recruiting, I would say retention.
Retention's big, but even just recruiting, forget about retention yet. We're not even that far yet. Let's just talk about getting people to join my team. You know what the biggest hurdle is for people to join your team?
I do not.
They have to leave their brokerage and join yours. It's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
So this is the advantage that these platforms have, and that's like Homexa and some of these other ones. Like this is what I'm talking. Like they're brand agnostic, they're brokerage agnostic, and so people can be in the brokerage that they want to be in. They can stay with the brokerage they're with and not have to make that move. That increases your recruiting potential by over 60%. That's huge, and nobody's talking about it, and it's massive.
Yes. It is massive. Yeah.
Oh, it's gigantic. I mean, you look at the rate of recruiting difference between those that require a brokerage shift and those that don't. The rate in recruiting is night and day, not even close. So, but this is the kind of stuff nobody's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing that up. I honestly never thought of it. And it makes so much sense. Now, this section, I call it the rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and you have to give me rapid answers. So one book every team leader should read.
Every team leader should read. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
There you go. One metric every team should track weekly, if not daily.
Appointments set per day. That's the most important metric.
Most overrated focus in real estate right now.
Most overrated focus in real estate right now? You're kidding me. You're going to throw me an underhander that's like, just knock it out of the park? It's AI. Way too many people spending way too much staying time on AI. It used to be social media. Now it's AI. Give me a freaking break. Oh, yeah.
There you go. What is the biggest opportunity for teams and high producer agents in 2026 that not a lot of people are tapping into?
Yeah, platforms. It's like a Homexa, no question, because people can build a team without the effort and the back end hassle and all that stuff.
There you go.
They're all going right now. Everybody's rolling up. Everybody from Veronica Figueroa, who's kind of on your side of the country, and they're all rolling up into those companies. Go ahead. Sorry.
There you go. Now, $1 million question. If you had to start over again today, no database, no reputation, what would you do in the first 90 days?
Hit the phones. I'd start my perfect daily schedule. I'd hit the phone, schedule listing appointments.
That's it. Just calling.
I'd call expireds, FSBOs. But it's, if I had to start over from scratch, had no money, had no database, easy. Call expireds and FSBOs. Done.
Easy peasy. Walk in the park.
Yeah. I mean, you can get three freaking listing appointments a day doing that by yourself without a team, without any help. You can easily schedule 3 listing appointments a day. Done. I mean, that's easy.
There you go. Now, if you have to give one last message and you want every team leader in the country to listen to that message, what would that be?
No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. Stop listening to people just because they've made a lot of money. if they haven't made a lot of money and they don't enjoy the kind of family life that you want to have, if they don't have the balance in their life that you want to have, and if they have not exhibited a consistent ability to balance all 5 key areas in their lives, stop listening to them, because the more you listen to them, the more you're going to get what they got.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. For me, life work balance is very important, especially now that I have a newborn. So I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah. And so you saw a lot of real estate. Do you believe it's paramount to sell real estate first and then become a coach later? Or is that not a prerequisite?
Absolutely, that's paramount. If you want to be a real estate coach and you want to coach somebody on how to navigate this market, experience in the market, there's no substitute for experience in the market, none whatsoever. It's funny because when people haven't had experience in the market, they give you ideas and they tell you to do things that they don't really truly know whether or not it's going to work. They don't really truly know what the consequence of that is 2 years down the road, 6 years down the road, downstream from where they're at. It is paramount that you have been there so you understand what you're really telling somebody to do. And so, yeah, I would never take advice from somebody that hasn't been where I'd want to go.
Appreciate it. Well, Michael, thank you for being able to repeat the intro. Something happened in the background, but I appreciate it. I hope we can connect again in the future. Maybe for coaching, maybe for VA needs, maybe for just being in your events, or maybe if you have a podcast or something, coaching sessions that you want us to participate, I'll be more than happy to be part of that as well.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, I'll have Tara schedules all that stuff, so we'll make sure that she stays in contact with you guys and get some of that figured out. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. And send me a link to this. I'll put it out there on my social and see if I can't drive some traffic to you that way.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll edit it and we'll send you the link once we post it. All right. Thank you.
Sounds
Thank you
great.
for your time. Well, Michael, thank you for the clarity, the directness, and the strategy you've shared today. This is exactly the kind of conversation that helps leaders win the year. And to our listeners, if this episode challenged you, inspired you, or gave you direction, make sure to follow, like, share, and drop a comment. We've cracked another powerful code today, but execution is what separates the good from the great. Until next time, build smarter, lead stronger, and keep cracking the code.